What do you think about that? Lots of people getting in touch to say, no, thank you. Well, Andrew Allison is head of campaigns for Popular Conservatism. Andrew, your thoughts on this? Good evening to you.
I've said for a long time, and good evening, Peter, that this is a solution looking for a problem. I mean, let me give you two scenarios here. If an illegal migrant goes to an employer right now and asks for a job, a law-abiding employer will say, let me see your national insurance number. No national insurance number, no job. An employer who's not bothered about the law will just say, yeah, I'll take you on. Now, you tell me how that's going to be any different with a digital ID system. It will simply not work.
What I often find, and this is not just limited to Labour, the Conservatives did it as well, so did the Lib Dems when they were in government, was the answer, a lot of people say, is we've got to do something. We've got to create essentially more law. We've got to do a new thing. My point to so many governments is, why don't you just implement the law that's there already? If it is illegal at the moment to employ someone at a car wash, a nail bar, a barber's, who isn't here in this country legally, enforce the law that's there already. Why does everybody else need to suffer and have the inconvenience of having a digital ID when actually we don't need one?
I completely agree with you, Peter. And I remember, I'm going back, must be about over 15 years ago, in a conversation that I had with David Davis. And he said, if you go to the police and say to them, would you like more powers? They automatically say, oh, yes, we would love more powers. And they will keep on taking more and more powers when really they've got powers already to enforce the law as it is.
Well, listen, I totally get that. I want to talk about another story with you now. This is something I'm definitely interested in your thoughts on. This is Andy Burnham. Very interesting tweet from Neil Coyle. He's not always well behaved as an MP. He's a Labour MP for Bermondsey and Old Southwark. He said, this is reacting to the news that Andy Burnham says Labour MPs are privately urging him to challenge Keir Starmer for the party leadership. Neil Coyle says, I'm not me. The annual Burnham wants to be leader headlines just before conference. Labour's conference is, of course, in Liverpool next week, are more gracing this year. He didn't take on the guy who oversaw Labour's worst defeat in a century and facilitated anti-Semitism, Jeremy Corbyn obviously, but pops up now under a huge majority and with 4 years to go. No ta. Well, let's just remind ourselves what Andy Burnham said to BBC Radio Manchester this morning about this.
MPs were in touch with me, but let me also give an honest explanation of what I said to those MPs. It's not up to me. It's not my decision. That's a matter for you, for the party in Parliament. And also I said to them, and it's got to be about more than a personality contest. You know, the Tories were just constantly going through this at the latter end of the time that they were in government. It's got to be about a plan, a proper plan for the country and a proper plan to beat reform.
What do you make of what he says there? He says it's not really his decision. I mean, it is, isn't it?
It's not exactly a ringing endorsement of Keir Starmer's leadership, is it? And he's quite clearly leaving the door open for him. But he's got one major problem, and we both know what that problem is. He's not a member of Parliament.
He's also the man who, as a member of Parliament, lost the Labour leadership twice, once to Ed Miliband and secondly to Jeremy Corbyn.
Yes, that's right, even to Jeremy Corbyn. Yes, that's right. And can you name me a safe Labour seat at the moment?
Well, I don't think there is a safe.
I can't even think of one.
Don't think there is a safe Labour seat. I mean, maybe Graham Stringer's seat. He's very far ahead. But if there were any form of by-election, Reform UK and every other party would throw the kitchen sink at it. Of course they would. There's no guarantee of anything these days in politics. It's a fascinating one.
And we saw also, Peter, in Helsby, didn't we? That by-election. I mean, that was notionally a very safe Labour seat.
Yep.
Yeah, Reform only won it by 6 votes, but you know.
But actually they overturned a majority of 14,000. So there may only be, Sarah Pochin may only have a 6-vote majority, but I mean, to overturn the majority that was there already, that is a very significant achievement. I wonder, Andrew, where you stand, and not necessarily the popcorns, but you yourself, in between these kind of arguments in regard to Reform UK and the Conservatives, because Boris Johnson has been talking as well. Let's see a clip from him. He's been talking about his concerns over Nigel Farage. He said this to Harry Cole, who his show Harry Cole Saves the West is on at 10 o'clock each evening, Monday to Thursday, on this station. So let's see what Boris Johnson said yesterday.
You know, my concerns, as I say, and they're serious concerns, are about the approach to the economy of the Reform Party and the approach on national security. And I think both of those will be severely tested in the years ahead. and people will actually want serious answers. And I think that the answers are going to be Conservative answers.
Then Nigel Farage responded to that. He was asked about it earlier today. This is what Nigel Farage said. Very, very pithy.
Mr Farage and Boris Johnson, he's branded you extremely dangerous and said he has been side on your position on Russia. What's your response?
Poor old Boris. Sad.
Where do you stand on this, Andrew? Who do your sympathies lie with? A popular Conservative, is it Boris Johnson, or is it the more popular Conservative with the small c, Nigel Farage? Maybe he wouldn't call himself a Conservative, I don't know.
Well, you've asked me for my personal opinion, because I don't really have a corporate opinion on Boris Johnson, as we were only formed last year. I mean, I just wish Boris Johnson would just go away, quite frankly. I think he was a pretty disastrous Prime Minister. The problems that we're dealing with now with illegal migration, and indeed migration full stop, the Boris wave. The clues there is in the title. All the draconian restrictions that we had to go through on lockdowns. I mean, we spent or borrowed enormous sums of money, as much as we would if we were fighting a war, and for what? And all of this was done under Boris Johnson's leadership. And the problem with Boris is that he likes to be loved, and he has to be loved, and he has to think that he's relevant.
Not too much love from you, Andrew.
Very much yesterday's man.
Not too much love from you, Andrew. I wonder how you feel about another Conservative politician, one of the few popular Conservative politicians to coin a phrase, Robert Jenrick. Let's see what he has been saying to The Sun, this time to Kate Ferguson, the Sun on Sunday's political editor, about flags and Palestinian flags. This is what he has been saying, Robert Jenrick has been saying to Kate Ferguson.
I think that people are sick of seeing, the Gaza flag being put up, a lamppost, a Pakistan flag. A couple of weeks ago, I went down the road from here in Newark and put up Union flags on lampposts for a couple of hours, and car after car, HGV drivers, van drivers were honking their horns. They were saying, good for you. People want us to feel pride in our country, and in order to do that, you have got to integrate people properly and expect that everyone who comes into our country cherishes our history and our heritage and our culture.
Should there be this ban of putting up the the Palestine flag then in public buildings or in the...
Well, look, I don't want foreign flags on public buildings.
Yeah.
I don't want to see them on the streets. So
all foreign flags?
Well, look, there are obviously exceptions to that rule. I'm not going to go and, ban anyone from putting up a national flag, but I want people to feel a genuine sense of pride in our country. And that means people putting up flags of the United Kingdom and our, the nations of our country. But we should be one country under one flag.
Robert Jenrick there speaking to Kate Ferguson from The Sun on Sunday. Andrew, I wonder what you think about banning flags. I'm not particularly happy to see a load of Palestinian flags all over the place, but I don't necessarily think people should be banned from holding them, from displaying them necessarily. What do you think?
You can't go around banning people from actually holding them in their hands. You can't really go around banning them from displaying them in the windows of their property or on their property, unless it's breaking some sort of planning rules, of course. So no, you can't do that. But I really am with Robert on this one. And we had this a few weeks ago, didn't we, in Birmingham, when it was Pakistan's National Day, and they had a big Pakistan flag, and I think it was the library in Birmingham it had the Pakistan flag projected onto it. I mean that should not be happening. We should be proud of our flags, because at the same time as they were doing that, they were trying to use some sort of petty jobs worth excuse that it was dangerous putting Union Jacks and St George's flags on lampposts. I think what Robert is saying there is what the majority of people in Britain think. I'm absolutely sure of that. Yeah. And he's just speaking the language of the common man and woman.
Andrew, just one more thought before you go. Another story that's up today about UK cod rationing, fish rationing, would mean one fish supper for every 1,200 people. Fishermen will only be allowed to catch 11 tonnes of cod, not very much, in British waters next year if ministers follow scientists' advice to protect the nation's favourite choice for fish and chips. This is the International Council for the Exploration of the Sea, an independent body which advises the government on how much to exploit fish stocks, which has judged that cod populations are so endangered that none should be caught in almost all British waters next year to give them a chance to recover. Do you think they're talking sense here, or will we be forced to simply eat other fish, do you think?
Well, thankfully, if I go to a fish and chip shop, I prefer haddock to cod, so maybe I'm all right. I don't know what the haddock population is.
I think it's a bit healthier than the cod population anyway.
Well, yeah, it seems to be healthier than the cod population. But I mean, if the stocks are getting low, then I suppose something is going to have to be done about it. But it's not an area of expertise, even though I really do like eating it.
I have an area of expertise in eating fish and chips. I don't know much more about it, though. But listen, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts on all of that. That's Andrew Allison there. He's head of campaigns at the Popcons, Popular Conservatism. On benefits, Maureen has been in touch from Liverpool. Maureen, you're very welcome to the programme. She's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. What point would you like to make, Maureen?
Good evening, Peter. The point I wanted to make is about national insurance numbers. Now, I've worked in the DWP for many, many years. I'm 80 now, but when I was 16, I was giving national insurance numbers to people who applied or people coming from into the country.
Okay.
Now, that's a common factor for everybody from 16 to the end of their life. People are coming from abroad and they have a period to live and work in this country. I don't see why our records branch can't indicate when that period is coming to an end. And information is passed to DWP.
Well, you would think, wouldn't you, and you have experience of this, Maureen, that the system is essentially there already. So whether a digital ID is needed specifically in regard to people's eligibility to work, it should be pretty straightforward. I mean, surely that's the point of
the records branch should have details of your national insurance number, your employment record, your contributions, your address, your employer. And I don't see why it can't be flagged up at appropriate times to people, check where they are and whether they're still in the country or not. And if they're coming to the end of it, you need to know where they are and what are they doing.
Well, that makes perfect sense, Maureen, from someone who knows what she's talking about. Thank you, Maureen. Maureen in Liverpool there, who worked for the DWP. I'm sure it was called different things, DHSS and others, throughout her career. Rob has been in touch and says, Starmer's push to digital ID is an outrage. It will have no impact on illegal immigrants whatsoever. More Big Brother is what it's about. Ivan says, if you're not a criminal, if you are a British citizen or have a current work visa and contribute, then ID is great to allow access to public services, only including driver licences, housing, rent, healthcare, tax, social services, insurance, all household bills, but must not be allowed to become a political or judicial tool. Works great around the world. Lee says, I'm suffocating with this government. I've never felt so powerless and surprised in my 51 years. It is unbearable, says Lee. Betty says, we haven't, I'll come to this in a second. John, the Isle of Wight, says, just another dead cat to get us all worked up, just to distract us from the real problems with the government. We're not stupid. Well, John, if they're doing it, it's not necessarily a dead cat strategy. If they're going to actually do it, it is going to make a massive change as well. Guy in Leicester says, I'd like to ask the Irish question here. How will the UK government enforce these rules on Irish citizens and those in Northern Ireland who do not see themselves as British? Republicans will never accept this, and that would fuel an even bigger black market, says Guy in Leicester. Well, listen, there are a lot of people who are Irish, consider themselves Irish, as is the law in regard to the Belfast Agreement. You can be Irish, have an Irish passport and live in Northern Ireland. You can say you're Irish. That's absolutely fine. Similarly, I'm from Northern Ireland. I say I'm British. I have a British passport. That is absolutely fine as well. That's what the Belfast Agreement says. And if anybody says that isn't in the Belfast Agreement, they're lying to you. And if they say that anybody who calls themselves British, who lives in Northern Ireland, isn't British, they're also lying to you. And that is against the law. In regard to, well, it is contrary to what the law says anyway. Guy in Leicester, I think you're right actually, although there are many people who consider themselves Irish who will have a UK driving licence, for example, will have a driving licence which has a union flag on it. They may keep it in their wallet, they may not advertise it too much, but or indeed many people who consider themselves Irish who have British passports simply because it's cheaper than getting an Irish passport. Betty says, we haven't seen cod and chips since the war with Iceland up here in Scotland. Lots of sustainable haddock, says Betty. I'm a big fan of cod. I must say I had one the other night, but it was pretty pricey, so maybe I should change to haddock. We're going to talk about this in just a second with Fergus Watson. He's the owner of the Fish and Chip Company, which is a fish and chip shop in Auchterarder up in Scotland. We'll talk to him in a second. We'll get your thoughts on all of this, including digital ID.